Hello everybody, welcome back to the Nocturnal Gaming Network. My name is Zira, and today we are once again playing Spaceflight Simulator. So today's a little different. Today we are starting ourselves in the build menu. And if we look at our rocket, those of you who are familiar with the moon landing can probably guess exactly what we're doing. We're going to be doing a moon landing. Go figure, right? So today, this is going to be a vanilla moon landing. So this rocket won't do, but I'm going to use it to demonstrate what, is commonly referred to as an Apollo-style moon mission in, these types of games where people are recreating the missions. So that's what we're going to be doing. An Apollo-style moon landing. For an Apollo-style, you basically have one big rocket. Okay, in this case of the, Apollo 11 modeled rocket, we have one main thrust stage. We have a secondary thrust stage that's going to basically get us partially circularized. It's going to get us to space and start to circularize. And then there's going to be the third stage here, which is going to finish the circularization and send us into space. Okay. Next, for the Apollo style, you have a couple things. You have a command module, and then you have a lunar lander module. So in orbit around the moon, you're going to basically reconfigure the command module and the landing module to basically be docked into one another so that your crew can transfer between them. And then with the third stage, this wonderful piece of hardware is going to travel to the moon. At the moon, you disconnect the third stage, it smashes into the moon and disappears, and you're left with this stuff. So this is going to circularize around the moon. Then the landing stage down here is going to disconnect and it's going to land. After that, the astronauts get out, they do their EVA, they play a little golf, plant a flag, get a nice suntan. And then they're going to go through and basically get back into this lander stage. At which point, this part with the electric thruster right above the separator, that's going to be the lunar ascent stage. It's going to separate from the lander. The lander is going to stay on the moon. This is going to go back up. It's going to connect up to the command module again. Then the ascent stage deorbits itself, and the command module goes home, hits the atmosphere, and lands safely. Okay? So that's, in a nutshell, is what we're going to be doing today. Just, not quite with this. Basically, we're going to be using something similar as far as like the main stage goes. We're going to be grabbing the command pod. We're going to do a parachute. There we are, a docking port. Then we're going to use a separator. And that way, when we're actually coming back into Earth's atmosphere, we can separate this out. And we can safely land. Do I want this? Do I want the grasshopper? I think I want this broadsword, because I think we may want this just in case for controlling the main craft in space. So we're going to do this. The grasshopper, which I mentioned, is in the utility. It's right here. We're going to use it on the ascent stage, so don't worry, we will get to see it. We're going to grab a couple of probe cores here. Well, 3 probe cores, a few. And now we are going to connect the lunar ascent stage via a docking port, there we go, to the command module. And this will work fine to connect the two. It'll be great for launch. And then you've got the docking port there, so we can just do the reconfigure. I'm actually going to recolor this for once, make it black. There we go. And we want to put some RCS thrusters on this ascent stage. That way it's easier to rendezvous them together. Now we can put a separator, we can put another probe core right there, just like that. And yeah, that's it for that. Now we need to do the lander stage. So with the lander stage, the lander is going to be operating in space to control this assembled craft to do the finishing maneuvers around the moon and then landing. So I think if we want to be really technical, if everything goes perfect, we probably only need about, let's say, 8 to 10 tons of fuel. But I'm actually going to add a little extra fuel to this. I'm going to add another 5 ton to the bottom here. That's going to make it easier for tutorial purposes for those following along to actually land this thing. It also allows me to add some RCS thrusters onto the landing stage. That way when we're landing, we're not just relying on the upper set of RCS thrusters, which if we're doing that, it's fine. But since they're so high relative to the center of gravity, they're actually going to rotate the craft a little bit when we try to use them. So there we are. Here's our main assembly. We have our command module, our lunar ascent module here in the center, and then the lander module, combined lander module. So next we want to put a separator. We can just throw this down below the separator because that's going to be used to control the second stage. We're only going to use 2 stages in this rocket. And we need to go to aerodynamics and put our fairing on. There we are. So with the fairing, we could top the fairing off right here, just like that. But I'm actually going to put one more piece of the Tier 3 fairing. That way we've got a little bit of an easier time actually grabbing onto this thing when we're trying to separate it. Because if we're trying to separate it but we keep hitting like the parachute or something, it's not going to want to let us separate, which we can't have that. We need to be, ready to go when we click the separate button. This is going to be our second stage, just a nice basic second stage. Do we want to put a little more fuel? No, I'm good with this. This should be fine even in a tutorial setting. Next, we're going to do our first stage. It's going to have 6, count them, 6 of these 20-ton fuel tanks. And it's going to have 3 Hawk engines. And then we're going to go back to the aerodynamics again for a second, and we're going to put some of these slanting nose cones on them. I believe they are a vanilla part, but if they aren't, then the regular nose cones work just fine. I just like the looks of the slanting ones better. So here's our final rocket. Let's get ready to launch. So we're going to do 2 things here. We're basically going to go through and launch using a gravity turn this time instead of what we've been doing. We've been going up, 2,000 meters, turning to 45 degrees, and then circularizing ourselves. When we do the gravity turn, we're basically going to be going through and doing a much longer, flatter burn, and that's going to combine the upwards velocity and the sideways velocity together into one burn, it's more efficient to do it that way. And the second thing we're going to do is we're going to try to burn directly to the moon from launch. Okay, we're gonna try to do that. So when we do that, we need to know where the moon is going to be when we would reach the moon. Okay, so basically, if we go back here, when we go up, we turn to 45 degrees and then circularize. That puts us in space right about here, roughly, 45, 50 degrees from where we launch, right? When we do the gravity turn, we're going to go up at a much flatter trajectory. It's going to put us in space, like over here somewhere, okay? Like almost an eighth of a turn around the planet. maybe even a little more. So therefore, if we want to boost directly from where we end up at our gravity turn, we're going to have to raise our apoapsis on the opposite side, and then out to the moon. And I am scrolling, it just doesn't really look like it. There's the moon, okay? So what we see here is the moon happens to be basically where we would want it to be when we complete our gravity turn. We actually would probably want it a little bit further along its orbit, but that's okay. So the next thing we have to talk about is the actual moon's orbit here, because we don't want to basically launch and point straight towards the moon because we'd miss it. We want the moon to be further back in its orbit. We actually want it to be like over here, okay? At like let's say 5 o'clock, right? From the position that we're launching from, basically. Oh no, why did you switch? I didn't even turn the phone. What is going on here? All right, so we're going to accelerate through time. We need to go to like 1,000, 2,500, 10,000, something like that, and that will get us ready. We want to wait till the moon goes around the planet and gets to approximately 5 o'clock. So there's about 4. Let's say that is about 5 o'clock right there. Now, I'm not actually measuring this. It's all by eye, so I will warn you, we might not be perfect here. We're going to turn our engines on, make sure all 3 of them are on. All right, there we go. One last good look at our rocket. Make sure I got something for a thumbnail here, right? And then we're going to go to our map. Now, we want to go to 100% throttle, and we're going to turn our engines on, and we're going to start turning at about 200 meters. So we turn on, click it, we can click it, follow it, click again to unfollow, not undo the follow menu, rather. There we are. Now we're going to start rolling, and I'm just tapping the button. We still want to be at about 45 degrees at 2,000 meters, so keep that in mind. About 1,500, so we're pretty close. That's roughly 45 degrees. We're going to keep turning this time. Our next milestone, we want to be at about 60 degrees by about 5,000 meters. So right about there, that's probably pretty good. Next, we want to make sure that we don't turn too far. We want our apoapsis to actually be out of the atmosphere and be in space. So let's say 30 to 35 kilometers by the time we run out of fuel with our first stage here. So we can keep turning a little bit more. We're getting close. Zoom out some. We're going to be pretty good this time. We can actually turn over even more. So right about here is probably pretty good. Now, when we do this, we want to separate and then boost right away because we're still in the atmosphere. So we're actually going to be pulled back towards the planet if we're not careful. And since we're in lower atmosphere than the other times we're basically launching, it's going to affect us more if we aren't consistently boosting prograde here. Now, once we get out of the atmosphere, so once we get to 30, I'm going to stop boosting, and I'm actually going to go towards our towards our apoapsis. I'm going to time warp. So right before it, we're not quite going fast enough. We can stop right on the apoapsis. So like something like right here, we're going to want to be a little bit radial out, and then we can turn our engine on and just continue to circularize ourselves here. There we go. Keep turning over, and we're almost completely circularized here. Got like, I don't know, 5 seconds, 10 seconds more to go. Now, the biggest thing about the gravity turn is it combines upward and sideways trajectories here. So when we actually make it into space, we're going to be at a much higher trajectory than we normally would. And I never set the moon as my target. There we are. Set the moon as the target. That way we can see where we need to be. And, oh, look at that. Look at that. That's just amazing that we actually time this out and we're in the zone. So we're going to boost ourselves prograde still. Now, we might want to turn a little bit radial out here to try and bring our apoapsis back since we're starting the burn a little late. That's fine because, you know, basically the moon's got a real big sphere of influence when you compare it to the scale of how far we're actually going here, so it's really easy to get a moon encounter. Now, what we want to do is we want to actually stop here and separate real quick because we don't want to run out of fuel with this stage. We want to be able to deorbit it. So we're going to switch back to this, turn that engine on, and we're going to boost again. And that should allow us to continue with our moon encounter here. We need to remember to go back at a later date. Actually, probably when we're on our way to the moon, we'll go back and do this here. And deorbit the second stage. So we're just going to keep burning here. We're almost there. Remember, once we start getting close to our encounter, we're going to want to lower the throttle. So right about here, we're going to make contact. There we go. All right. So we're going to throttle up again. Basically, what we want is to end with our periapsis at approximately 10 kilometers here. So we're going to work towards that. I'm actually going to stop at about 20, let's go with like 15 kilometers. 15 will give us a little bit of wiggle room when we go and do the circularization burn here. So now that we're on our way, what we're going to do is we're going to turn our RCS thrusters on. We're actually going to reconfigure our craft where we're still near Earth. Oops, turn that engine off. Boom, do that. We're just going to boost back a little tiny bit here. Go over here. We're going to follow this. That way we can zoom in even more so we can switch. Boom. Go back to our map. Turn our RCS thrusters on. Now I suppose we technically should have done this before we set our height, our periapsis on the moon, because we're going to use a little bit of fuel to actually go through and do this burn, but that's okay. And by, I don't mean use fuel. I mean we're actually going to gain and lose some speed. And by gaining and losing speed, even the little amount that's gained / lost with these RCS thrusters, since it's so far away, it's actually going to affect us here. See, we're at 117.5 kilometers. So much change. Let's go back and we'll turn our engine back on. We're going to turn our RCS thrusters off again. There we go. We'll rotate ourselves more prograde, and we're just going to reset our periapsis at the moon again. Stop selecting things. There we go. 13's good. So we're good. We're fine. Now what we're going to do is we're going to go over here. We're going to select this and switch to it. Now we can just rotate it to about, well, we need to go to our apoapsis. That's going to be the most efficient place to do this. So right about here. Why'd you turn? Why did this just like jump like that? I don't know. There we go. So now we will deorbit it. We're just going to use all our fuel because we can. We could have gone a little further, but whatever, that's fine. We'll switch to this module again. Alright, we're all ready to go. Now we can just continue to time warp until we make contact with the moon. So right about here. Boom. There we are. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to turn the engine off in the lander stage, turn the engine on in the command module stage, and we're going to go retrograde. And we're just going to get ready to do a capture burn. And we're going to do the capture burn with the command module. That way we can save a little bit extra fuel in the lander module, because we really don't need that much in the actual command module to get home. So we're right here, we're going to burn, and as you can see, our trajectory is changing. There we are captured in orbit around the moon. And because I was slightly, ever so slightly off on my, there we go, on my angle here. Oops. Let's go slightly radial out. And that's going to change our height. Now we can go radial in. And that's going to raise the periapsis some more. And then we can go boom. Alright, and we want to keep an eye on this apoapsis. There we go. Let's lower the throttle here. Alright, what are we doing here? We're going this just a little bit out. Keep going back and forth. We're gonna go down a little more here, and we want to keep going until we get our apoapsis down to about 10 kilometers here. It's just a little bit more. We'll go down even further. There we go. There's the apoapsis. Now we're going to set our orbit. We want to be, really low. So I'm going to go down to like 1% thrust here when I do this. That's probably pretty close. Where are we? We are literally right over the apoapsis. Good. So now we'll burn. Okay, let's make sure our apoapsis hasn't changed. No, it hasn't. Change our angle just ever so slightly. Go down to like 0.387. How are we doing here? We're still right on. Change our angle ever so slightly again. 0.2. Ooh, we're going to go over. We're going to go over. Bam, 10 kilometers, right on the dot. Okay, so now we're going to separate again. And we're just going to click the separation button. And what we're going to do is we're going to use RCS. We are going to change ever so slightly our speed, because we don't want this thing to reconnect. Come on, switch to it. There we go. Now we're good. Alright, so we have about, let's say roughly 2/3 of our fuel. What we want to do is we want to be very careful that we don't actually smack into our command module as we're doing the landing. So I'm going to move off here. I'm going to make sure that I'm out in space, and I'm going to burn. Oh, I need to turn my engine back on. There we go. Alright, we're going to go to like 25% thrust, and we're going to lower our periapsis here until it is very close to intersecting the planet. And now we can just, once again, verify that we aren't going to smack into the command module. No, we aren't. Good. So let's go here. We can just accelerate through time. We don't want to go too fast because we want to be able to slow ourselves down at the right point. And that right point's right about here, because we're going to try and land right next to, right about there. All right, and we're going to turn ourselves retrograde, flip ourselves all the way up to 100% throttle, and just burn down. And remember, the goal here is to cancel out our sideways momentum, actually. That way we can land roughly fairly vertical here. So now we can rotate ourselves along. We can just wait. We're going to gain some more speed, but that's fine. Did I lower the landing legs? Yes, I did. Make sure you lower your landing legs. I have forgotten it on a couple occasions. Doesn't end well. It actually turns out quite badly. So basically we can just, follow the craft. Get ready. Once we hit about 2,000 kilometers, that's about when we really care to start slowing down. So, fairly soon here. Not necessarily so soon, but I mean fairly soon. We want to be, once we hit about 1,000 kilometers, we want to be, say, 30, 40 meters per second. That's probably a good landing speed. So let's lower our speed, change our angle. There we go. Keep lowering the speed. There we are. We're at 1,000 meters per 1,000 meters and about 50 meters per second. So we can actually lower our speed even more. We want to go back, retrograde. Boom. There we are. That's probably pretty good. Now we're below 1,000 meters. So what we can do is we can actually check in on this. All right, let's boost really quickly, just like this. That'll line us up with our landing point again. We're going to go and orient ourselves about like this. We're at 500 meters. We're going to zoom back out. We're going to go to like 19-20% thrust, and then we're just going to burn like this. And that's going to slow us down. We can actually use the RCS thrusters. Oop, I'm going a little too fast, so we're going to lower it to about 10% thrust here, actually. Boom, and that's going to keep slowing us down, but not too much. There we go. And we can sort of use the RCS thrusters to angle ourselves at the correct, vector to hit our landing spot. We're just going to pulse our thruster on and off. We can use the upward RCS to get a little more control, and then bam, use the RCS right at landing to make a nice, perfect landing. And we have the lunar module and the lunar ascent landed on the moon. We're actually right next to our rover. Our rover's over here, by the way, in a dip. And our next mission's going to be, I don't know, something like sending a rescue mission to get the rover, because currently it's out of, I don't know, communications range of the the module we sent down with it. So what we're going to do, I think, in the next mission is we're going to launch another rocket. We're going to land it, literally land it on top of that rover. We're going to add a communications array to the rover. And that way the rover can talk with this satellite up in orbit. I believe it's this one right here. Yeah, at 50 kilometers, it's going to be that one. It can communicate with that, and it can, do things. So now we're ready to actually launch ourselves up again. So what we're going to do is we're going to set the command module, which is at pretty damn close to 10 kilometers, as our target. And we're going to wait until it goes around and it's right overhead, because with the moon and with a 10-kilometer orbit, there's, when it's right overhead, it's pretty close. I mean, we're going to have to catch up to it a little bit, but we should be able to hit it within, like 1 or 2 times around the moon. So there we are, right overhead. What we're going to do is we're going to turn our thruster on ahead of time. We are going to put ourselves at, let's go with like 50% thrust, like right here, separate, and then boom, lift off. And we're going to rotate pretty early and then turn our RCS off. All right. So now we want to keep an eye on the launch. We're going to follow it because that's the easiest way to do this. We're going to keep rotating ourselves over. And we want to be basically going pretty much perpendicular to the planet right off. And if we do this right, we can come pretty damn close to getting an intercept with this thing. We're going to keep rotating ourselves around here because the one thing we want to make sure is we don't raise our apoapsis higher than 10 kilometers. So we might actually want to wait here. Let's wait, and we're below. That's right, I forget. We're below 5 kilometers, so we can't actually fast forward time. So we have to wait here. I mean, we can still boost a little bit. And I mean, probably getting ourselves to 9 kilometers for our apoapsis is a good idea. That'll bring us within a kilometer of the, there we go, within a kilometer of the command module. There we go. We're at apoapsis, so now we're going to turn prograde. We're actually a little past it, but that's okay. Turn prograde and burn at just 100% to finish circularizing ourselves. Bam. And we're switching. We're at 9.3, 9.2 by 7, so that's going to be pretty good to catch up to the command module. So here we go. We're almost caught up. One time around. So it's going to be just a little bit further. We're going to catch up right about here, aren't we? Yeah, so literally at twice around is when we'll catch up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to burn myself just a little bit radial out and prograde at 100%, and that should, we should probably do like 20%, and that will raise our apoapsis and change our point that we would be intercepting this. Now, can we see it yet? No, we cannot. Okay, so that's fine. All right, now we're directly behind it. Great, so what we're going to do is go radial in. We're going to burn again. All right, and that, ooh, that's actually put us too fast. So we're going to fix this, we can burn radial in and retrograde. There we go, and that's going to rotate our orbit around. So now we're going to cross back below it, and we can continue to catch up. There we are. Now we should be pretty close. I think we should even be able to see the other rocket. Yeah, there it is. See it off to the right? It's just going off screen now. So what we're going to do is we're going to activate RCS thrusters. We're going to rotate ourselves so we are just horizontal because that's close enough. And we're going to use the RCS thrusters to bring us close to the other module. So it's going to pass right over the top of us. So right about there, so we can go up, so it's coming down towards us, and then go left to cancel out the vertical momentum. See how easy this is when you've had a little practice? There we go. Here we are. Now we're going to want to be ready. We'll rotate to the correct orientation. We'll burn downward ever so slightly to slow ourselves down. Go back towards it. Oop, a little bit too far down. There we are. So this mission is almost at a close. But I have one more treat. Because we have so much extra fuel, what we're going to try to do, and I'm pretty confident that we can do it. All right, here we are. We've transferred all the astronauts back and forth between the modules. They're in the command module. They are recovering from their vacation on the moon. We're actually going to burn ourselves. Where are we? Where are we right now? We're here. Okay. All right, so we're going to go around the moon one more time. And we are going to go to like right here. That's pretty good. We're going to burn retrograde, make sure we're not going to smack into the command pod. I don't even see it, so we're probably good. Yeah, I don't see it. We're good. We'll burn retrograde at pretty much 100% throttle here, and that's going to get us on a collision course with the moon again. We're going to reline ourselves up like right about here, and we're going to just accelerate time till we hit 5 kilometers. There's 5 kilometers. Now we can burn retrograde-ish. That's pretty good. Perfect. So now we're gonna want to go mostly upward off the planet, radial out. We're just gonna wait. This thing has so much thrust compared to its mass, so I mean it's like we don't even need to try on this landing. It's pretty tight. We still should try. We should be careful. We don't want to smash into the surface. But we're going to wait till about 2,000 meters, then we're going to start slowing ourselves down again, just like we did before. Line ourselves up right over the last craft that we just landed. Once we get to 1,000 meters, remember, you probably want to be about 40 meters per second, something like that. That'll make sure that you're coming down not too fast. We're going to come in a little hot on this one so we don't have to wait, so we can make this a little quicker. But yeah, basically right about now we can start to do this. We can use our RCS to move ourselves over so we're on the correct trajectory. My goal here is to land this lunar ascent module right inside the little bit of fairing from the previous launch. Oop, I boosted a little too fast and now we're going the wrong way. That's fine. We're coming back down now though. We can even use some RCS thrusters to point ourselves towards the surface. There we go. Boom. Alright, so like I said, we have entirely too much fuel here, so even if you're following along at home and you're not really the most experienced, seasoned astronaut, you should be good to do this. I mean, look at this. As long as you're careful, with a little practice, you can be so precise with this. A little bit further. Boom. So we've landed it right inside the fairing of the previous stage. How's that for precision? Not only specifically hitting a point on the moon, but, launching off of the moon, going around the moon, connecting, and then landing in the same spot you took off from. That's pretty cool, I think. So, because this game likes to do things and cause problems, I'm actually going to pull this out of the fairing, and I'm just going to sort of land it off to the side here. So like right here's probably good. You know what, let's move it over and actually just like lean it up against there. So just like that. That's perfect. That's the perfect place to go. Now, our astronauts are feeling a little homesick, so let's switch to the stage. We want to go and find the Earth, the big blue ball, and select it, set it as our target. Alright, so we can do the same procedure here to get back to the Earth as when we took off. Now, remember I said this is going to be a really quick burn? Watch this. We're just going to turn ourselves prograde. Boom. Make sure we're actually going prograde. Yes, we are. Wait till we're in the zone. There we go. Zoom out. We want to be focusing, we want to be far enough out that we can see what's going on here, and then we burn. Boom. See how fast that was? I don't even know how much velocity, how many meters per second, but that was such a quick burn. We want to go down to 13% is probably too much. And basically our goal is to lower our Earth periapsis to just inside the atmosphere. I'm aiming for approximately 25 kilometers. and we're just going to use the atmosphere to brake ourselves. So 22 is good. 22 is like perfect here. So we can just go over here, speed up time, 100%. We're going to leave the influence of the moon. Any second now. There it is. Now we're in orbit around the Earth. We're coming in hot towards the Earth. Now, since we are, we want to stop just before here. Since we are going to be landing this with only the actual command module, on our final approach, we want to separate the rocket. And what that's going to do is it should lower the the periapsis of the rocket a little bit here. And hopefully it doesn't interfere with us when we're actually doing our atmospheric braking here. I don't think it should. I think it should be fine. Yeah, here it is. Where's its trajectory heading? It's going to go into the atmosphere ever so slightly above us. Now, the reason we went low to like 20, 25 is because when we separate, it gives us a little higher momentum. See how our periapsis is now 26? You have to be careful that you're far enough in the atmosphere that you don't eject and go out of the atmosphere. So that's why I suggested like 20, 25. 25 might even be too much because we were at 22. It gave us about 4 kilometers, right? So maybe you do want to go to 20. All right. So let's just accelerate till we hit the atmosphere. Boom. Here's the atmosphere. We want to rotate ourselves retrograde. My bad. And then we are braking because of the atmosphere on the bottom of our command module. So boom, just like that. See, our apoapsis is lowering itself. Where are we going to land, by the way? Where are we now? So it looks like we are off the coast of the United States or Canada right about now. I don't think we're going to land here. I actually don't think we're going to make it on this pass through the atmosphere. I'm pretty sure we're going to have to go around one more time. So because of that, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to switch to this. This is the thruster, by the way. All right, and we're just going to sit here with the thruster, and we're going to go through with this because this is going to go through the atmosphere first. And we're going to make sure that this deorbits, because remember, if you don't have a part selected or you're time warping with a part, it's going to it's basically not having physics applied to it. So it's not going to slow itself down. So we're just going to boost through. Bam, there we are. We're at 25. We can't time warp anymore. We're just going to wait here, and this is going to appropriately slow ourselves down. When we get a collision course with this, we're going to swap back to the command module. So we're actually pretty close to a collision course. We're at 10 kilometers. 30. There's a collision course. So now we can switch to this. We're going to boost again. Now I don't think we're at 25. No, we're not. So we're going to need to manually slow ourselves down when we reach the atmosphere, which is basically right now. We just entered the atmosphere. We're going to be slowing down ever so slightly. There it is. As we enter the atmosphere more and more, the nice flat of the bottom of this is going to slow us down even faster. There we go. And yeah, we're basically golden here. We just need to wait. 26. So because we came in at such a high angle, it's going to probably take one more pass on this to actually slow ourselves down enough here. But that's okay. This is the nice, safe way to do it. Think about it this way. If we were to come in at a really steep angle, one thing we'd actually risk is overheating the command module here and burning it up. And we don't want to do that. We just kind of want to hit the atmosphere and make a nice slow descent. You know, that way we can not let our ceramic heat up to the point where it fails, right? All right, we're just about to leave the atmosphere again, so we're just going to time warp. Going to time warp ourselves around again. So just like this, slow ourselves down. We still don't quite have the periapsis we need. A little bit further. There we are. Now we're in the atmosphere again. This time we will definitely lower our apoapsis to the point where we can finish the descent. Because we're only at 500 kilometers. So, you know, I wasn't specifically counting, but based on the fact that we're, oh no, battery power is low. I suppose this has been almost a 50-minute episode, so whatever. This should be absolutely everything you ever need to get a craft to the moon, even if you're playing vanilla. So, you know, I'd say it's well worth it. There we go. 200 meters per second bled off, or 200 kilometers, excuse me, bled off. So as we're actually doing this, we should be lowering our periaps too. Yes, we are. Now it's at 25.7. So, ooh, I don't think we may actually not have enough atmosphere. We may have to go around one more time. I really called this one poorly, didn't I? It's okay. Like I said, better be safe than sorry. We are slowing down. We may have enough atmosphere left to do this. If we do, it's going to be damn close. Because we're at 27.1 kilometers. We get 100 more kilometers, not 100, 70 more kilometers on our apoapsis. Ooh, can we do it? I don't think we're going to do it. I think we are going to have to go around one more time. But am I wrong? Because this time we're definitely below a periapsis of 25 kilometers. So if we do actually have to go around again, which, yeah, we're definitely have to go around again. So I'm just going to speed it up. I can just let this go. We're going to hit 25 kilometers. It's going to cut off our time warp, and we can just go, once again, make sure we're pointing retrograde, and this time we are lower in the atmosphere, so there's absolutely no worries here. It's going to very easily slow us down and very quickly change the periaps to the apoaps, and we can make a guess on where we're actually going to end up landing. Looks like we're coming down in the middle of the ocean here. Like that's definitely where we're going to come down. We're coming down in the ocean. We're still actually doing about 1,550 meters per second, so we're still going pretty fast. And that's mainly our sideways momentum here. So I mean, we can just keep ourselves rotated retrograde as we go down. I think basically the force of the atmospheric drag is going to keep us pointed really roughly in the right direction, so we don't have too much to worry about. There we go. I wonder if we're still going fast enough we could actually spin around a few times, but probably don't want to do that. We probably don't want to make our astronauts like space sick or seasick, or maybe it's G sick. I don't know. We don't want them to throw up. They've probably been doing pretty good. They're probably feeling, homesick, and they're just ready to be home. So we'll let them have a nice, safe, slow landing here. We're at 13, 12 kilometers. We're coming down pretty good now because we've killed off almost all of our sideways momentum. Now it's pretty much just going to be the downward momentum. So we'll keep the craft pointing retrograde. There we go. And pretty soon we'll be home. Now remember with the parachutes, because it's been a few episodes since we did anything with a parachute, what you want to do, you need two criteria. You need your velocity less than 250 meters per second, and you need your height off the ground less than 2,500 meters. So we're going, we got a real good speed and a real good height, so we're going to wait until about, let's say, 500 meters because our velocity is perfectly fine. We're going to wait until about 500 meters and then we're going to activate the parachute. So that's 80, so probably about 10 more seconds. We're slowing down still. We could actually deploy the parachute right now, but remember, we don't want to do that because then it takes absolutely ages to just drift down from 2,500 meters because it slows us down to a velocity of like 13 meters per second once it's half deployed, and then it slows us down to like 4 meters per second once it's full deployed at 100 meters. So we're almost there. We're almost at 500 meters. And right about, boom. Now, parachute's half deployed. There we are. We're down to like 13 meters per second. We've got a little teeny tiny bit further to go. Here's the ocean. Wink, wink, nod, nod. It is an ocean, no matter what the game says. Yeah, we're good. We're just about at 100 meters. There we are. 3 meters per second. We're in the final descent. Now, one thing I will caution you from, do not switch off this while you're waiting for it to land, because remember, physics is not applied and it will smash and break. All right? Boom. So we have landed. This mission is over. Now, if we go and we recover this, bam, we are going to see our mission achievements. We reached a low orbit. We entered the moon's sphere of influence. We entered the moon's orbit. We landed on the moon. We escaped the moon's sphere of influence. And I don't know why it's not saying, and we returned home and landed on Earth safely, but we did. So that's it for the mission. We're just going to cancel this. We're going to leave this right here just because we can. And that'll be it for this time. So thank you all so much for watching. My name's Zira, and this is the Nocturnal Gaming Network bringing you a really long and detailed moon landing tutorial vanilla. Have yourselves a wonderful night, everybody.